Well, welcome everyone. I'm really pleased to be able to do this. I know it's a little bit strange with masks and the distancing, but we all know why we need to do that. But it is really good that we're able to share the great work that you're going to be reporting out on, and we're broadcasting this thanks to the great work that our medical illustration team are able to do via YouTube, so our colleagues will be able to watch it and we'll be able to catch up with it as well, so that's great. So we've got some good report outs today. First up, we've got the Patient Experience one-day event, Managing Patient Complaints. We're going to have a report out from that event, and we've got the KPO members supporting us, Helen and Natasha, and I think we've got John, our process owner, lead nurse from Patient Experience. Welcome, John. And are you going to kick us off?
I think
Helen's going to kick us off? Yeah. Fantastic. Helen, over to you.
Thank you. We're going to be doing a bit of a move round as we go, Julian. So welcome everybody. My name's Helen Rollet. I'm the interim KPO lead. And it was my pleasure on Tuesday to host our first virtual Kaizen Day, along with Natasha from the KPO team. In August, we were asked by the Chief Nurse to support a piece of work managing patient complaints. We know that the organisation has a responsibility to respond to complaints within a 40-day period, which is it's a challenge that we find across the CSUs to meet that target. We know that CSUs have different processes within their CSUs to manage these complaints. They have different personnel that manage them. They all face various challenges. What we wanted to do was to bring together these teams so that we could share good practice, and so we invited 4 CSUs as well as the patient experience team. There was just short of 20 people in total, so it was no mean feat on teams. What we asked them to focus on was when the CSU received their complaint to when their complaint was ready to go to the quality assurance process.
Thank you very much, Helen. So I'm John Weiss. I'm the lead nurse in the patient experience team. We look after the complaints team in the trust. When we consider the current state of the complaints process, it was quite clear that the existing process contained a lot of waste from initial complaint entry into the trust to the completed response, which also affects timeliness and quality of the responses from the complaint. We identified many key wastes, and really I've just captured them really within looking at defects, overproduction and processing. In terms of defects of the complaints process, there were issues such as the organising responsibilities in investigation, the challenges of organising complaint meetings, particularly at the current moment in time, the actual initial response, through to the corporate quality assurance check, and also the challenge of coordinating in multi-CSU complaints, highly complex cases often, and also the notion of lessons learned versus apology and inaction as well. So that was really a key thing that came throughout in our discussions. When we look at overproduction, there are many instances of overproduction in complaint responses. Sometimes there's too much detail in the responses, there can be delays in writing the response, rework often in the QA process and variations across CSUs and quality assurance, sometimes poor quality responses, and also responders answering what they think needs to be answered rather than the questions raised by the service user. And actually when we look at reopened cases as well, we estimate around about 40% of these reopened cases are due to actually the initial response being inadequate. So that's a real focus of our work in this work. And in terms of processing, often there's a lack of streamlining in complaint allocation, also a lack of productivity in proceeding with investigations as well, all which impact upon the quality of the complaint response. And also there are outside influences, or other considerations such as involving risk management, and also also incident management as well. So highly complex cases, multiple problems, things that we can really work on. And also, I guess the key thing for me, that there were commonalities across across the test CSUs. There's an absolute willingness to change, and this really has developed and generated our ideas for change. So I'll hand over to Natasha.
Hi, my name is Natasha Bissett. I'm a Senior KPO Facilitator and a team lead for this event. I'm going to talk you through our Target Progress Report. This is a live document, so to speak, where we record all of our data, our baseline, how we were doing before the event, and then where we record our remeasures going forwards. We were given a fantastic sponsor challenge to look at the timeliness of this process and the quality of the response, and it gave us a real focus for the day. When we looked at the lead time, we found that there was quite a lot of variation from around 1,200 hours as a trust up to over 2,600 hours in one of the CSUs that we tested. And it's due to a lot of the variation that both Helen and John described. When we looked at the quality defects as well, there's a lot. We chose to look at the reopened complaints. Complaints can reopen for a lot of reasons. Maybe the patient has further questions that they would like to be answered, but sometimes it is due to the fact that we've not got it right the first time. And when we looked into our data, we found that that happened in about 44% of the cases. So quality of response was a really key thing. I'm going to now hand you over to the team to talk you through some of the ideas that they came up with to tackle timeliness and defects.
Hello, my name is Michelle Baker and I'm a clinical educator for trauma-related services. The first idea we agreed collectively is a timeliness of complaint response. The Trust currently has a blanket approach of 40 working days to response to complaint, which we are not achieving. It has therefore been agreed that a new complaints timeframe of 20, 40 and 60-day working days target be rolled out as soon as possible.
Hello, my name is Bev Brown and I'm Head of Nursing for Emergency and Specialty Medicine. So collectively, each CSU have agreed to set their own internal targets for their complaints process to comply with the new complaint response target times of 20, 40 and 60 days. This will then be shared with the authors and QA teams within each CSU via a standard work form. This standard work form will detail expectations of roles, responsibilities and timeframes for each individual.
Hello, my name is Celia McKenzie, Head of Nursing at Leeds Children's Hospital, and to support us in relation to timeliness and complaint response, we agreed to introduce weekly huddles and complaints boards. On the complaints boards, the complaints will be visible to all teams involved in complaint responses, and the target time of the complaint response due, and we can challenge people as to any issues in relation to their response and also support them in completing the response.
Hi, I'm Julie Lofthouse, matron for abdominal medicine and surgery. So one of the other themes that we identified was and wanted to take forward was working on coaching. This was specifically rather than training in complaints writing. And this was to ensure that staff have an understanding of the process and that the empathy and tone is consistent across the complaint responses that we produce. So we recognise that there was significant rework amongst the CSUs, and especially with the head of nursing, on the responses, and this was causing delays and bottlenecks. So one of the things that we've agreed to do was that the complaints team would provide complaint masterclass sessions. And this is just for the initial CSUs involved in the project, and this would be a one-off session. This would then be followed up by time-limited coaching calls for each CSU, and that's working alongside that investigator as they work through a complaint, and that would be supported by the CSU clinical educators.
Hello, my name is Donna Pearson. I'm Head of Nursing for Trauma and Related Services. So we talked about the coaching and who that would be aimed at, and we've identified that should be aimed at the complaint response writers, and that is both clinical and non-clinical staff across the Trust. It was a challenge for us to identify how we would measure the outcomes of our project. It is quite difficult to quantify. So we have agreed that we would measure the time taken to rework the draft responses by the Head of Nursing in each CSU. And also we've measured the number of quality rejections for significant defects in the responses.
So where were we by the end of the day? Usually we have a week for these things, And I rather ambitiously thought that maybe even at the end of the day we might be able to simulate something. But the fantastic ideas that we came up with, the coaching and the new framework, are going to take time to implement. So we don't have any remeasures for you today, but this blank TPR is up there as our promise to uphold our Leeds way value of being accountable and come and talk to you at 30 days about how we've gone on. Hopefully we'll have some data for you by then, but we'll be back at 30, 60 and 90 to update you.
So one of the beauties of working with so many people in one event is you're never short of ideas in terms of what we can do to change our processes. One of the things that we do, we can't do everything at once, and so we've developed a car park for some of those ideas that really resonated with the team. For CSUs to continue to look at their own current processes around the allocation, we make huge assumptions that this should be a nursing duty, and actually what we really want to look at now is really understanding where's the team approach, multi-professional, medical engagement. We want to be able to understand and develop standard definitions. Patients ask lots of the same questions. And so what we want to work with the teams to say, actually, how can we put this together in patient-friendly language and we can all be saying the same things so that patients don't get confused by different versions. We want to reduce the number of inspectors. We know that as a complaint moves through the process in the organisation, it could go through 2 to 4 to 6 members of the team. And so what we want to do is reduce that down, but actually increase that level of inspection per individual. There's always great learning to be had, no matter when you teams. And so ultimately, you know, what we really resonated was that every CSU's got their own individual challenges, but actually the process elements of it. And so we can have some great work going forward about really sharing that learning. Knowing what can be done virtually was a real test for Natasha and I setting this day up. We have realised that the setup of that, you know, to get a really successful outcome is going to be crucial. This was the first time that we'd asked a team to really go away and prepare themselves before they turn up by understanding value and waste and doing a waste walk before they arrive. The results of that blew our agenda out the water because the results, it took so long to get through the results, which was brilliant. And so that real setup was something that we want to really continue on going forward. We also used a concept called 5S, which is something that we often talk about in terms of equipment or storage space or rooms. This process really lent itself to the 5S of information and data, and so what we want to do is really to go away and look at the educational material we can provide to the organisation to support people to look at their information in a different way. We have a few thank yous as ever. Tony, our patient partner who's been with us on various RPIWs, he joined the day via Teams. We went through some training with Tony about how he can support the work, and as always delivered some fantastic messages throughout the day to really challenge the teams to look at things from a patient's perspective. Thank you to all the CSUs that were involved. Your input on the day, as we said, was fantastic. And the patient experience team, and thanks to the KPO team that supported Natasha and I through background functions that hopefully no one noticed. So yeah, that's it. We look forward to speaking to you in 30 days.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Just before I invite the breast cancer value stream up, I just wanted to say really, really good to see that. I was delighted that you've taken that on, and it was great, John, to have our head nurses from different CSUs getting support in this, because that's, I think, where some of the real challenges lie. And I know from my own conversations with patients and families with those complaints that obviously need some exec input, that a lot of it often is about the process, it is about the sort of time it takes, it is about the communication side of things. And so it's really good that you're thinking about how we can collectively do more about this, the different approaches, and just that sense of responsiveness as well is really good. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the outputs from this work and how we tie the learning from complaints back into improvement, because there's always learning for us in any of the complaints. And I think that point about our staff, because it's so easy, isn't it, for our frontline teams to feel defensive, put on the spot, this sort of sense of blame, and kind of just trying to get away from that and using it as a learning opportunity. And that sort of way we establish positive relationships with patients even when things haven't gone to plan. So really good to see that, and thank you very much for participating in that. And do let us know what myself, Lisa, other execs can do to help support this, because this is a big issue for all of us, and one that I think is of real importance. So that's great to see the work, and really good, Helen, Natasha, to see how we've applied the Leeds improvement method to that in one day. That's fantastic. Okay, so let's move on to the next report out, which is the breast cancer value stream first appointment. Invite the team up.
Hello, my name is Simone Corcoran and I'm the Business Support Manager for the Referral and Booking Service in the Switchboard team, and I'm the process owner for the RPIW1 Breast Cancer Value Stream. This RPIW was to focus on the time it took all suspected breast cancer referrals that are referred into the fast track team to receive a telephone appointment to make an outpatient appointment to rule out the suspicion of breast cancer. Before the RPIW, we often found that we would complete workload in batches, which resulted in patients sometimes feeling less aware where they were with the process. The initial lead time for a patient to receive a telephone call to make an appointment was 31 hours and 21 minutes. The idea of banishing the batch was implemented and was a success. We last reported out on the 13th of March, promoting that we had continued to keep the one-piece flow and a better experience for patients and staff. Unfortunately, the world was then hit by our not-so-lovely friend COVID-19, and I have to say I'm very proud of how we, Leeds Teaching Hospitals, have worked together to adapt and implement new ways of working to keep both patients and staff safe at a worrying time. To echo on from this, I'm super proud of the fast track team and how they reacted to the acute changes in processes, scripts, and also their work environment, but keeping their patient at the forefront of their minds. So here we are, a little bit later than 90 days. One of the big challenges COVID-19 was set for the organisation was to reduce the footfall through clinic to enable the total 2 metre distance. This in turn meant the reduction of breast appointments to keep our patients and staff safe in the clinical areas. The CSU worked effortlessly to change clinics at very short notice and sometimes really short deadlines. CSU and Fast Track have continued to work closely on a daily basis with updates of template changes and to offer help of assistance if each team needed. As you will see from the TPR, and I'm very super excited to say and provide you the update that overall reset 90 days of a patient receiving a telephone call to make an appointment is 2 hours and 35 minutes, which is a 90% change of improvement. And also, to continue, we are still working in a one-piece flow. More exciting news is that yet again we have smashed Mike Harvey's sponsor challenge of improving how patient staff feel with this process, where reset of change is 100%, which on a personal note makes me very proud of a service that we provide to patients who potentially may have breast cancer, and also to make me feel that my team, that they're doing a really good job, has made me extremely happy. I will now pass you on to Paige, who will tell you about their patient feedback.
Hello, my name is Paige Cuthbertson and I am the Assistant PSC for the Fast Track team. I have been part of the home team and today I am going to focus on patient feedback. To begin with, I was slightly worried collecting this data, as previously we collected it face to face, which added a really nice personal touch. However, this was going to be over the phone and I didn't want the feedback to be dampened. But wow, I was wrong. The questions I asked were, did your booking process involve patient choice? How did the process make you feel? And how did the level of choice make you feel? All the patient's feedback is behind me. However, I wanted to speak about one patient in particular, which was patient number 5, who absolutely stunned me. She was an 85-year-old lady who, when we originally rung, had only left her GPs an hour ago. She said that the process could not have been any more efficient, and it made her feel assured that her referral had reached the correct team. The level of choice made her feel valued. She said it made her feel like we actually cared and wanted to make sure we were seeing her at a time which was not only convenient for us, but convenient for the patient. She also said that because we rung so soon, it reduced the amount of time she expected to be feeling anxious. She made the comment that there is usually a lot of anxiety around the wondering of whether the GPs have sent the referral through yet and whether we have received it. She was so grateful and thankful on the phone and asked me to pass this on to the whole team. After the phone call, I was smiling from ear to ear all afternoon. I have also had lots of feedback without even looking for it. There was one Friday afternoon and I was sat with a member of management catching up. Kevin Vaughan had asked to speak to a manager. I says to Kevin, "Are you sure they really need a member of management on a Friday afternoon? Can it not wait for Monday morning?" Joking, of course, but I did presume that the patient was ringing up to complain. When I took the phone call, the lady wanted to personally thank me on how amazing her experience was in the breast clinic. She mentioned Kevin, Claire and Daryl's names and said how compassionate and composed they all were on the phone speaking to her. She said during a time of what she expected to be turbulence, the whole breast surprised her, and she was astonished at how well the breast clinic was operating, even during times of COVID. We was actually on the phone for about 15 minutes because the lady just could not stop saying thank you and expressing her happiness. Our sponsor challenge from Mike was not only to focus on the quality for our patients, but it was also to focus on quality of our staff. I'm going to pass you up to the lovely Claire, who will tell you about how the new process makes her feel.
Hello, my name is Claire and I work in Fast Track on the breast bookings. So the managers and the CSU keep the team updated with staff feedback, which is really important to us. If we receive negative feedback, this helps us to improve on how we deliver our service, so ensuring the patients receive the best possible support. When we receive positive feedback, it's acknowledged by our managers and comes in the form of a Grade Tech certificate. I think this is a great idea and I enjoy receiving the certificates. It makes me feel proud when I read the lovely comments patients have said about me and confirm that I'm doing my job well. And the recognition makes me strive to continue to provide this excellent service. So the certificates are printed off and are put up on our office wall, and I just try to get as many as I can because I just want to fill that wall.
Hello, my name is Kevin and I'm one of the clerical officers at the Fast Track team. I was part of the RPIW process along with Simone and Paige. So during the process we identified that there was no SOP, which is standard operating procedure, for the breast bookings. So one of my tasks was to produce the SOP with the help of a colleague, which I've done. Unfortunately, due to the lockdown and COVID, I wasn't able to test it. We only did like a little sample test along with myself and Paige and another colleague from the Fast Track team. But luckily, we've got Daryl here. So Daryl actually did some testing. So I'm going to pass you through to Daryl for some feedback of the testing.
Hello, my name is Daryl and I work in Fast Track. The detail had to be general and contained enough content so that someone who is new to the one-piece flow can pick it up and run with it, as per which Kevin and Claire do on a daily basis. I've worked for Fast Track for 3 years and recently worked in LGI for 4 months doing something completely different. Upon my return I was asked to use a fresh pair of eyes to check that the SOP was still correct and worked for the one-piece booking flow to ensure continuity to all the breast patients, whomever is using the SOP. I was able to use the process and with a couple of tweaks can confirm that we have a clear and working SOP. I will now hand you back to Simone.
So here we are on newspaper. So we've got a couple of newspaper items that need to be finalised. One of those is relating to the text reminder service. But again, due to COVID, we as a department and organisation put a halt on the text reminders to the patients just due to the fact of the confusion. So as the patients weren't coming to an appointment in the hospital, they may receive a telephone. So we've got to stop on that at the moment, and we're just waiting for guidance about what we're going to do next with the text reminder. The second one is regarding the patient insert, and I'm very confident that we will have that finalised within the next 2 weeks. We're just waiting for a virtual telephone number to be able to put onto the insert so that patients can actually ring and leave messages, and we can ring them back. Okay, so barriers and key learnings. A huge barrier was the unexpected, obviously, pandemic. However, like we said earlier, I feel we as a team, Fast Track, CSU and an organisation worked through those barriers. On certain occasions we had to stop the line. However, encouragingly I would say, that line usually went back on within the end of the day or the following morning. So that was really, really good. The key learning, I think embracing the methodology is so important. Visiting and connecting with the Gemba on a daily basis. Revisiting the process, like Kevin and Daryl said, it's going back and using your 5S's, rechecking and understanding if something does change, that the team have got a communication link, and actually we document those changes so it's fit for purpose. One personal feeling I have, and I really, really quite passionate about it, is regarding listening to the patients and staff feedback. I think it's a massive empowerment tool and motivation tool for the staff to hear what good job they do, and coming from patients is even better. So I will personally take that on to our next part of our process when we start that. Okay, so our last bit and our pledge to continue to banish the batch and work in a one-piece flow, and look at the opportunity of next about how we scale up and spread that. You know, for the Fast Track team, we deal with nearly 18 specialties, so it's about us being able to then scale up and spread to the next specialty and take this going forward. On a personal note, again, just to thank everybody, thank Paige, Claire, Kevin and Daryl. They've been fantastic going part of this journey alongside the Fast Track team. The CSU, again, have had a collaborative approach and helped support the journey that we've been on. Thank you to my Caviar sponsor, Challenge, and the KPO team who have been there absolutely always helping and assistance at short notice. So a big thank you for our adventure, it's been great.
Well done. Thank you, Simone. And that was fantastic. I just to say, I think the way you all put that across in relation to how you overcame the challenges that COVID presented us with was outstanding. And I think also what really came through, and you talked about it, Paige, was the sort of feedback from patients and how that made you feel, which was terrific. And I was so pleased, Claire, when you talked about how the changes had made a difference to your role, and also Kevin and Daryl talking about the impact. And really, I guess for me, this just reinforces the point that only those people doing the work can improve the work. So the fact you've all got stuck in and it's really embedded at every level is fantastic. I think the two actually, both report outs, really do centre, don't they? I think that really came across strongly from both. So that I think at this time, and the newspaper and the progress, the 90 days, Simone, I think is tremendous. So really well done, and please pass my thanks on to the rest of the team. And I'm sure Mike will be cheering you on as well. I know he's taken a particular interest in this work, which is great. So that completes our report outs. We are going to hopefully make a little bit of time for some Q&A between the team, so please stay and maybe think about some of the questions you might have for one another in terms of what you've heard. But next up, always a pleasure to do this, and it is a real joy to do this after a bit of a hiatus, is to present Advanced Lean Training Certificate to Amy. So Amy, well done. I think, yes, here it is. Let me present in a socially distanced manner your Certificate of Achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Really well done. And I think you might have a couple of reflections for us.
I do, yes. So, hello, my name's Amy Dunmore, Head of Nursing Professional Development. I'm really delighted to receive the certificate. I completed the training in my time when I was working in the KPO team. I just wanted to share a couple of things because my lean journey has not ended there. You know, it's gone from strength to strength. So firstly, about the Advanced Lean course, I just like, you know, it was really a really powerful learning experience. I wanted to share with you that you cannot underestimate the depth of learning that occurs when you teach. So I'm looking at Michelle and others that I know that teach. I found that the teach backs on the course, so actually using that methodology really enabled a much deeper level of learning for me, but also a change in my thinking. So it was a really, really powerful tool, and I've certainly taken that forward in my thoughts about professional development in this role. I feel as though a lean switch was turned on in my brain, and I just can't turn it off now. Wherever I look, I can see opportunities. I probably was geared up that way anyway. I've always been wanting to improve, but I can see the waste, I can see the defects, I can see the opportunities wherever I look, and it just won't stop. It's quite annoying sometimes. Secondly, I just wanted to say a bit about my light bulb moment in the training, in the hope that this might inspire others to come on the Advanced Lean training. So there's a tool called Product Quantity Analysis, PQ analysis, and I'm probably not a detailed person. If anybody knows me, I tend to wear on the more the softer side of things, the communication, our engagement with people, which is what makes, I think, me a good nurse. When I saw the PQ analysis, I thought, oh no, you know, I'm going to have to do some really detailed analysis. But honestly, it was such a I embraced it, and it was such a light bulb moment and such an amazing tool. It pushed me out of my comfort zone, but it's changed the way that I think forever. I don't know if you remember, Michelle, but we were working. I used the tool. He had to, you know, do something in practice with Marvin Mapund in medical physics and with the clinical educators across the trust. And we looked at something that is often a bit of a rock in our shoes, the medical devices training. You know, everybody groans and what are we going to do? And so I decided to embrace something that was challenging, and that was looking at one of the medical devices. And using the PQ analysis tool, we came to the realisation that we had thousands of hours of training required to meet the demand. So to be compliant in this particular tool, in this particular piece of equipment, we would have needed thousands and thousands of hours of training. And it was such a oh my goodness, no wonder we're not compliant, no wonder we don't meet that. And so what we were able to do was map the demand, so quantify it, work out what it was, and then because of that we could then think of ideas about how we might be able to meet the demand. The realisation that we weren't set up for success, I think, was just, I was like, oh, well, of course, there we are, that's why. So we quantified the demand, and then we were able to work together with we used ideas generation to think about, well, how can we meet this, and we hadn't had before. So that was a real aha moment for me. I would encourage anybody in this organisation to think about PQ. It's a really great tool. And then finally, the PQ tool, or the PQ way of assessing problems, I'm using it in my work now. I use it frequently. So the next bit of work that will be coming very soon to a CSU near you is a trust-wide training needs analysis. So this is about quantifying our demand for training and development. So we don't do that. We know that we need it, but we're not quantifying it in a measured way. So in doing this, I think we'll be able to identify accurately what resources we need to meet our training and development needs, and so that we can put them into our rosters. And this will make sure that our workforce have the time to develop the skills that they need and develop their careers, and therefore delivering the highest quality patient care. So the lean switch is permanently switched on. I just wanted to share that.
Great, well done, thanks very much, James. That's tremendous, and I think really good that the programme gave you that light bulb moment and the learning. That's, I think, one of the features of this. All of us, I'm sure, in terms of our involvement in this process, there are things that just make you realise, yes, that's how I can really apply this in my work. So, great. Well, that was fantastic. I feel really inspired and enthused by that, particularly being together, actually, because I spend most of my time staring at people's faces on a screen. It's great to be together to do this. So, bit of a chance for some questions for each other. Obviously, we've had 3 really good report outs on, you know, some very important areas. So any of you curious, got any questions or comments for each other on what you've shared today?
It's not a question, it's just I was really impressed with the feedback from the fast track team.
Yeah.
And they're so enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
It does lift you.
Yeah, thanks,
Bev.
Bev. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think you're absolutely right. I think we've got to sort of cherish these moments where we share and celebrate the really good things that are going on, because it is tough, isn't it? Like, there's some brilliant work happening that we need to recognise and share and celebrate.
Just on a similar theme, I was struck by the impact on staff. I like Mike's element of actually challenging you guys about what you're going to get out of it. And I think we should perhaps think about that in our complaints work as well. Actually, we talk about the process, but actually how does it affect all the people in the complaints process? Because I know, I'm pretty sure, that if you're going to sing, so how does that make you feel? And we need to try to, so I think we should learn a lot from the experience that you've had. So thank you for sharing that with us. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. No, really, really good point,
I'd
John.
just say, you know, we're right at the beginning of the journey, and it's definitely inspired me, and I'm sure all of us to, you know, hearing what the results are and the difference that's made to patients.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
No, completely agree, Celia, and I think, and it's really good you're involved in this, because I think we know, we know well, don't we, some of the incredibly complex situations and challenges that you're presented with in your CSU. I mean, across CSUs, but given our specialist role and some of the really kind of complex cases we face, really important we've got a good approach to this, so it's great. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Go on, Helen.
I would just offer my congratulations to everyone in the room, really. Amy, I think my personal congratulations for your ALT. It was a pleasure watching you go through it, and you did finish it quite a while ago, so it was lovely to see you get your certificate. To the guys that worked in complaints on Tuesday, I think I said, it was so good for you to take that time. It was a whole day, you know, there was pre-work beforehand. That commitment, I think, really paid off in terms of the level of, the quality of conversation we were able to have that day. And so I really look forward to hearing more about that process as we go, really. And I am utterly blown away by your remeasures, which is delightful. And I'm so excited that you're really looking now to scale up and spread across the organisation, because it's such a benefit for patients. So well done.
And I think for all of us, the opportunity to remind ourselves the power of the method, the power of this approach, and the way that we can improve through the sort of spirit and collaboration came out a lot in the feedback. And that's it's a key part of my values, but it's a key part of the Leeds improvement method. So any final comments? No? Okay, well, that's been really, really good, really good. I've thoroughly enjoyed that, and I have to say, I'm coming along. And those of you particularly, obviously, all three report outs that have continued to do this,